Hey guys, this is Reapress, aka Nicole, and I just wanted to come and talk to you guys because I made a short, kind of alluded that this video was coming. But I wanted to talk to you guys about the letter that the Freedom Caucus presented yesterday. I'm going to read everything through, and then I am going to give many caveats of my personal opinion. I'm going to try and keep this as clean as possible, but that may not work out so well. Also, we do have shirts and mugs available. I will be posting the links for the Etsy shop, and we are going to be changing a few things about the design, but it will look relatively similar. But I just want to really quickly, I'm going to share my screen here with you guys, and we're going to get right on into it because, yeah, you'll see once I get there. All right, so the first one is going to be House Freedom Caucus. No security, no funding. Washington, D.C. Today, the House Freedom Caucus released the following official position on the possible continuing resolution before the expiration of government funding on September 30th. As Congress continues to work to pass appropriations bills, we must rein in on the reckless inflationary spending and the out-of-control federal bureaucracy it funds, crushing the American people. We remain committed to restoring the true fiscal year 2022 top line spending level of 1.471 trillion without the use of gimmicks or reallocated recessions to return the bureaucracy, to its pre-COVID size, while allowing for adequate defense funding. And like I said, I'm going to read the whole thing to you guys, and then I'm going to go back and go paragraph by paragraph and give my opinion, because I want to break this down for the average Joe, the average American that doesn't understand what bureaucracy actually does go down in Washington. So the next one is, however, when Congress returns in Washington, we will have just a few days before government funding expires on September 30th, and time is rapidly running out to enact all 12 appropriations bills. Therefore, in the eventuality that Congress must consider a short-term extension of the government. Let me see if it'll let me move it. Okay. Oh, I think this is the end of this one. Okay. Sorry, guys, my mic went out. Therefore, in the eventuality that Congress must consider a short-term extension of government funding through the continuing resolution, we refuse to support any such measures that continues Democrats' bloated COVID-era spending and simultaneously fails to force the Biden administration to follow the law and fulfill the most basic responsibilities. Any support for a clean continuing resolution would be an affirmation of the current fiscal year 2023 spending level, grossly increase in the lame duck December 2022 omnibus spending bill that we all vehemently oppose just 7 months ago. Okay, so the second page goes on to this is the fun part. Include the House passed Secure the Border Act of 2023 to cease the unchecked flow of illegal immigrants, combat the evil of human trafficking, and stop the flood of dangerous fentanyl into our communities. Address the unprecedented weaponization of the Justice Department and FBI to focus them on prosecuting real criminals instead of conducting political witch hunts and targeting law-abiding citizens. And finally, end the left's cancerous woke policies in the Pentagon, undermining our military core warfighting mission. Furthermore, we will oppose any attempt by Washington to revert to its old playbook of using a series of short-term funding extensions designed to push Congress up against a December deadline to force the passage of yet another monstrous budget-busting, pork-filled lobbyist handout omnibus spending bill at year's end, and we will use every procedural tool necessary to prevent that outcome. Lastly, we will oppose any blank check for Ukraine and any supplemental appropriations bill. So without using any inflammatory language, I will just say this to the Freedom Caucus. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning of this bill. Unbelievable. So first and foremost, I'm going to break down, like I said, paragraph by paragraph in here. So the very first thing, Washington, D.C., the House Freedom Caucus, blah, 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 whatever. So I'm going to start from, as Congress continues to work to pass appropriations bills, we must rein in the reckless, inflammatory spending and the out-of-control federal bureaucracy it funds, crushing the American people. No, what is crushing the American people is the fact that we spend so much more in taxes than the top 1%. They always talk about how they're gonna bring how us Democrats raise taxes and this and that, and the taxes that we are trying to raise are on that 1%, not on the average American person. Sorry, let me gather myself. We will commit to restoring fiscal 2022 top line spending levels at 1.471 billion without the use or gimmicks of reallocated rescissions to return to the pre-COVID size. What they're saying here basically is they are not going to spend more or allow more spending to bring down inflation and lower everyday costs for the American people. And I think it is a huge joke when they say, while allowing for adequate defense funding. Y'all have been doing everything you can to rein in defense funding because of Ukraine. The Freedom Caucus is nothing but an arm of Putin's regime. And it is blatant by the work of their own personal fear that we'll get to, because his ridiculousness is shown in every single part almost of this letter. But however, when Congress returns to Washington, we will have just a few days before government funding expires, September 30th. The Democrats wanted to stay and get this stuff taken care of. Republicans were the ones that wanted to go on to their little break. Sorry, I've been looking down. I'm reading the letter, so I apologize if I'm not making a whole lot of eye contact. I'm really pissed off right now. And I'm just tired of seeing this BS from the Freedom Caucus, because they are all responsible for what happened from the election in 2020 to January 6th and everything that has happened since. They have tried to put on sham investigations against President Biden. They are increasingly and continuously helping fuel the hatred that is felt throughout this country, because we are called Satanists, evil, not human, roaches. What else? Cyborgs, I heard today. That was a great one. Pedophiles, which, side note, I do find funny considering every story that I end up hearing about a pedophile is somebody who is in either a state house or a federal seat as a Republican. Looking at you, Gates. So next I want to go into therefore the eventuality that Congress must consider a short-term extension of governmental funding, a continuity resolution. We refuse to support any such measures that continues Democrats' bloated COVID era spending and simultaneously measure that fails to force the Biden administration to follow the law and fulfill its most basic responsibilities. Y'all want to talk about following the law and basic responsibilities? How about the peaceful transfer of power? How about not planning to topple our government? That's probably one of the most basic things I can think of. But there's that party of projection coming back in at you. The Biden administration has been following the laws. They make sure that things are taken care of. And I'm not sucking on Biden's teat or anything like that. I am a progressive. I care about the squad and I care about my progressive crew in Congress. Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Summer Lee. I know I'm forgetting people. Just Ilhan Omar, Ayanna Presley, people who are actually trying to take action and want betterment for the people in this country, not for their lobbyists. and the big pharma and all these other places that just throw money into their pockets. That's the one thing that I really enjoy and am really just in awe about for progressives, is that they don't take money from lobbyists. They raise money grassroots. They don't have these big PACs and these big corporations funding. A perfect example of that is my girl Summer Lee. $4.5 billion was spent. Million or billion, I'm not sure which. Either way, it's a lot of money. For us average Americans, that is a lot of damn money. One's just way, way more money. But I believe it was million, thinking about it now. AIPAC spent $4.5 million to try to defeat Summer Lee. And that is the biggest waste of money that I have seen in Congress to date. Maybe AOC made them waste more, but since I have been progressive, that's the most amount of money I've seen wasted on a campaign for a progressive to win. So again, let me get back to this letter because we still got some to get through. Let's see. The next part was spending levels, lame duck December. We will oppose any spending measures that fail to, and here comes the fun part. The next one is include the House passed Secure the Border Act of 2023. First note, Biden created an immigration law, and unlike this unchecked flow of illegal immigrants that they claim, crossings at the border have gone down significantly, like over 50%, because of the statute that Biden put into place, the new immigration law that the Republicans fought so hard in court to try to get overturned. Combat the evils of human trafficking. Well, that I agree with. Again, looking at you, Gates. And the one of the last things was and stopping the flood of dangerous fentanyl into the communities. Let me make this as clear and concise as possible. When they talk about fentanyl being taken in at the border, they are talking about fentanyl that our federal agents down in at the border are catching of fentanyl, not what they're letting through. Yeah, fentanyl, I'm sure, is probably still getting through. But guess what? If you do your own research, you will find that that fentanyl is being brought in by American citizens, drug dealers, and they're bringing it into their own communities. Number 2, this one's a doozy. And I'm sure anybody who watched me read it knows that I'm going to go way off on these last 2. Actually, probably the rest of this letter. What am I saying? Addressing the unprecedented weaponization of the Justice Department and FBI to focus them on prosecuting real criminals instead of conducting political witch hunts and targeting law-abiding citizens. 91 indictments through 4 to 5 different courts, both federal and state, and more to come. There is no political witch hunt here. Most, if not all, of these cases against Trump were already being looked into and being investigated before he decided to run for president. I don't understand what people don't get about that. They were trying to get the documents back a year and a half before he decided he was going to run or announced officially that he was going to run. Merrick Garland was already looking into January 6th, and it wasn't until douchebag Donald decided to announce his candidacy that it was turned over to Jack Smith. Because even though Biden wants the Justice Department to be its own entity, that is still an elected position. It is a position that is under Biden. So he did not want there to be any impropriety or any look of impropriety, I should say. And he made a decision. When I say elected, he decided that Jack Smith was the man for the job because he has a lot of experience with crooked politicians and mobsters, all that stuff. He has experience to prosecute what needs to be prosecuted. And as for Georgia, Fani Willis, she's been investigating this since it happened, as has Michigan, and now Arizona's finally jumping in. I mean, it's not, I'm so tired of hearing why now? Why didn't you do this 2.5 years ago? Investigations take time. You need proof to get search warrants and things of that nature. You're not just granted things. I know that Donald's administration pretty much treated the DOJ like his own personal his own personal lawyers. But that is not how this works. That's not how any of this is supposed to work. And I'm so fucking tired. Sorry for the rude cuss word, but I am so tired of hearing how there's two different policies of law in this country. Us average Americans do honestly believe that, but not in the way that Trump and all of these Republican Freedom Caucus members talk about it. We say that there's two different tiers of justice because it's the everyday person that gets thrown into jail if they do even an eighth of the things that Trump has done. And it's the top tier, top 1% that don't get prosecuted and just continue to divide this country, continues to stoke stochastic terrorism, which is domestic terrorism. He knows what he's doing. I have a friend in Germany who has seen Bannon there in her country speaking to a political right group that she says is the new, I'm not going to give out names, but I can tell you for sure that this was given to me by her, like the new Nazi party in Germany. She was heartbroken to learn that there is a political party in Germany that is basically another Nazi party. And Bannon has been there visiting them asking questions. And I sit here and think, gee, I wonder why. It's because he brings it back to his own fear. But let me get back to this letter so I can get this done and make sure that my audio didn't go out for a bunch of this. But again, justice takes time, and justice takes finding truth and bringing that to a judge and getting search warrants and the ability to look at somebody's cell phone or Twitter account, no matter how resistant their douchebag owner was for not giving it up. But he's been a criminal. He's always been a criminal. This isn't a political witch hunt. This is justice finally coming for Trump. Something that he's never had to come head to head with. But he going F around and he's gonna find out. You play stupid games at a circus, you win stupid prizes. Finally, to end the left's cancerous woke policies in the Pentagon, undermining our military's core warfighting mission. I wonder how the far right feels about Tuberville's moves to not let people move up in rank because a woman's right, or just the planning for a woman to express her rights, was used to undermine the ability for people to move up in ranks in the military, in all arms of the military. The other thing, there have been gays, transgenders, everything in the military since the military started. No matter how much people want to tell you that it's a new thing, it's really not. I know a gay man who served in the military back in the day, and his daughter has told me stories, and you would think that it was so long ago that it was unheard of, but it's just heard of more now because we are allowed, or at least we used to be allowed, to speak freely about ourselves and who we love. But there are no undermining warfighting missions that the left is trying to end. To me, that personally just sounds like they're trying to cover their own ass for the many mistakes that they've made. Ask Tommy Tuberville, who, from what I understand, actually lives in Florida, not Alabama. He shouldn't even be a senator in Alabama. But why don't you ask him why the contract for the Space Force in Colorado was canceled to be moved down to Alabama? That would have brought jobs and money to Alabama families, which I'm sure probably needed a lot more than Colorado does. Because if it's anything like West Virginia, they're probably one of the poorest minimum wage states. If I had to guess, I've only been to Alabama once, but I can say it is definitely poorer than Chicago and other states and cities that I've been to. Furthermore, this is the last part. Furthermore, we will oppose any attempts by Washington to revert its old playbook of using a series of short-term funding extensions designed to push Congress up against December deadline to force the passage of yet another monstrous budget-busting pork-filled lobbyist handout omnibus spending bill at year's end. God, that's a mouthful. I wonder if that's a bigger mouthful than what Kevin McCarthy. Oh, never mind. We won't get into that. So there's a lot to unpack there. I love how they call out lobbyists. Considering every single Republican, and it's not just the far right, every single Republican takes lobbyist money, even good old Matt Gaetz. Just because he doesn't take PAC money during his election doesn't mean he doesn't take lobbyist money. But again, every single Republican in Senate and in Congress, all of them take lobbyist bribes. So it's funny that they mention that against the left. One of the things, just as an example, it is the right that under Trump caused the tax rate to go up for us and caused it to go down for anybody making over, I believe it was 400,000. But yeah, it's amazing what kind of projection they will throw into letters to make it look like it's all our fault. Lastly, and this is the best because this goes back to Bannon and Trump and everything else, and it is that they will oppose any blank checks for Ukraine in any supplemental appropriations bills. Honestly, I don't think that they're going to want to fund anything for Ukraine. If it was up to them, like Trump, they would hand Ukraine over in a good second to Putin. They don't care. Somebody I heard say this the other day, and it didn't ring true to me. But it is very true. These people that are in the cult, the maggots, the far right Freedom Caucus representatives and their constituents who still don't understand that 1 + 1 = 2, not whatever number Donald Trump wants to say it is. I'm just I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, I'm gonna just go ahead and stop there because I'm gonna end up saying something that I will probably get in trouble for. But just please remember, for those of us that are no longer under the weight of the Freedom Caucus, the weight of the Republican Party, those of us who are woke or have awoken, just remember, voting is no longer an option. It is mandatory, because if we are going to remove any of these sorry pieces of crap out of government and make sure new ones don't prop in, we got to work hard to make it happen. I know that it is not going to happen all in one election season, but I know that if we work hard enough, that our democracy can prevail. We've come back from much, much worse than Donald Trump. And we will come through this maggot movement as well. And we will learn from it. And we will know next time to not ever allow anything like this to happen. In ending, thank you guys for listening. Much love to everybody, and we look forward to seeing you guys on Friday for our podcast. Remember, resist those who aim to trick you, who aim to lie to you, who aim to turn you against your country. And remember, the one thing I was going to say is that these people, the far right movement, MAGA, Freedom Caucus, whoever falls within there, they are no longer American. They are un-American. They do not want to work within the constructs of our Constitution anymore. And to me, there is nothing more un-American than that. Again, thank you guys. I will be seeing you soon. Thank you. And this is Repping with Reapers. Please tell me that you recorded.